Scuba Obsessed weekly podcast. We talk about all things scuba diving, from cool new gear to places to dive and scuba news. Scuba Obsessed episode 546 is recorded live August 18th, 2022. Welcome back to Scuba Obsessed. I'm Darren Gilson, coming to you from the southwest side of the great state of Michigan, where this is the perfect fair weather and I mean like county fair weather. And also I bet this is great weather for scuba diving as well. Joining me this week, we have Mac, the dive mentor. How you doing today, Mac?
I'm doing very well. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So are people getting out and doing any diving in this just about perfect weather?
Well, we had the dive meeting this week, so we did not have Tankful Tuesday. But already we've got it scheduled for next week. Got 4 boats already going out to the Havana.
Yeah, I saw that.
Next Tuesday, dive is going to be, yep. And if it blows a little bit, then we still got an option. And on the way the wind is blowing, if you go North Pier or South Pier, as a backup.
Yeah. Yeah, because I saw that Kevin was going to have his boat and Bob was going to have his, and Jim was talking about bringing the Get Wet out as well.
Well, Karen mentioned hers if we had enough people. And then we still got, well, you said Bob, John DeBova.
Oh, John?
Big John. So he's got the lion's share, I think, right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's...
So I told Bob I'd hang with him.
I had Kurt text me last week. He goes, "Are you ever going to get in the water?" I guess that's a common question that I'd like to know.
Well, for being scuba obsessed, we need to get you in the water.
Oh, don't even remind me. No, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see it. Just hoping it's not a train. So I'm slowly whittling. You know, there's certain things that once I get them done, they're done. You know, and that's what I'm working on, is just, you know, cleaning up, clearing up, trying to spend time to make time. And that's where I'm at. And this week I took off so that I can donate even more time to not diving. So we've had the Berrien County Youth Fair this week. And I think I finally have come up with some sort of reasonable... Normally what I do is I overcommit to everything and I'm just running around like crazy, but I only did Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday working the corn dog booth, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday doing robotics. So it's like that's a light week for me.
You gotta like it, I suppose, if you're doing it.
Well, I'm doing it, you know, because you're trying to do, you know, build something that continues on, and I think that's where we're at. So, which will just free up some time for scuba diving. But now I'm to the point where I got to go and, you know, find everything. It's like what, entropy? I think that's what my property's become. We had the AEP came and gave us our new smart meter today.
We got ours last a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
What I thought was funny, you know what the incentive was to do that, don't you?
No.
Well, if you do it, you get a free installation, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't, they charge you $10 a month to go read your meter. So I'm curious, well, it didn't charge me to read my meter before you put the new ones in. Why does it suddenly cost you, you know, more to go read my meter?
Because they've raised money every other way that they can. So, yeah, what I'm waiting for is the real reason they want these smart meters. And this is conspiracy. I've done no looking up on this. I'm just speculating. But I bet the smart meter will also shut off your electric.
I would not be a bit surprised.
So say they ask for volunteers and they don't get enough volunteers on these heat emergency days. They can go and say, you know, you're on our naughty list. You know, you've been using a little too much electricity. You know what? I think we're just going to shut you off.
Well, I don't want to be a conspiracy guy, but I think there's a lot of validity to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I'll do some looking into it. The guy gave me a little bit of a, thing going, oh, you can go online and make this. And I'm going to try and get, because my wife handles that. I'm going to try and get her to, get the account set up and then see what kind of data I can mine from it. I've been considering and buying some of these smart electrical panels where what they'll do is they'll break down by circuit how much electricity you're using. And then there are some where they do like a clamp on ammeter, and through a little bit of predictive and artificial intelligence, they can kind of guess like, hey, we notice this goes on so many times a week and you get that. So we're guessing that's a dryer. We're guessing this is your refrigerator. This is probably when you're baking. So just to kind of get that baseline. So I'm trying to see I'll see what kind of data I can get and what that comes into. So yeah, do something, because my electric bills are crazy.
Mine have gone up astronomically.
Yeah, and I can remember, gosh, my first apartment. I won't say how long ago it was, but I'm doing the old man stuff. I think our electric was $36 a month. Was my electric in our apartment. No air conditioning. Gas, natural gas heat, but yeah, now my electric bills are more than the most expensive car payment I've ever had. That's how bad electric has gotten.
In the hundreds, $300 or something.
Yeah, $300 is a bargain. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping the smart meter I might be able to do, get some stuff, because there's certain things I don't know, because we've got a farm and you've got the barn, and it's not to say that over the years we first world problems, each of the horses has a heated water bucket, which is nice. So instead of breaking the ice out of the water bucket in the winter, it's always melted, but I don't know how much that costs. Is that 25 cents a day? Is that $4 a day per bucket? I don't know. So I'm hoping I can find that out. Yeah. Yeah, they can monitor your electric use and charge you more. Eric in the chat room is saying consumers' power does it now. Yeah, AP's been doing it for a while, but to get out to me, which I would think you'd almost want to do first, because it's got to be tougher to read meters out in my area than do that in town.
Well, they always just estimated it anyway during the winter.
Oh, they estimated it. Gosh, they'd read it once every 4 or 5 months. I'm trying to remember. And they always kind of hid it from you. It was like, oh, well, you got to look for this symbol on the bill, and that's going to tell you if it's an estimate or it's a live reading. It's like, why don't you just say, yeah, we were too lazy this month, or we didn't want to pay the driver to go out and do it. Yeah, smart meter.
Save money by not doing that.
Well, at one point in time, they were trying to do a smart meter. They were doing, before smart meters, it was going to be power line internet. So they're hoping to do two things, where they would be your internet provider over the electric lines. And then that would also be your meter reading back. But I think they took.
Remember that.
Oh, they were working on it for a few years. The technology works, but the thing is that they have to put a special type of bonding over past each transformer so that the signal comes through. And by the time they got everything perfected, Comcast and everybody else, their internet was still 10 times quicker. So, yeah. They missed their window of opportunity where they could have done that. Probably in the late 90s and early 2000s. It may have made sense, but not today. Well, now that we've wasted 4 minutes chatting about normal stuff, let's talk about some scuba diving. So let's cue this one. First article we have is legendary Wikiwichi. Am I saying that? Wikiwichi? I've been there before, but
yes.
Mermaid Bonnie Georgiadis has died. Her legacy lives on. I apologize for mispronouncing her name. The Tarpon Spring siren who fought to save local wildlife and preserve Wikiwichi's history, worked at the park for 37 years. She was the longest employed mermaids has died. She was 86.
Ooh.
She plunged into the spring's crystal clear water as a swimmer and emerged as a mentor to dozens of mermaid. Her 37-year stint at the park was also included in choreography and producing 7 shows, rubbing elbows, fins with Hollywood stars, and taking care of numerous birds of prey. She was born in her family's Tarpon Springs Hotel, Villa Lumosa. She also grew up near the Antelope River. She developed a fascination for swimming movie star Esther Williams when she was 11, when Newton Perry launched underwater mermaid performances at Wikiwichi Springs. And I'm slaughtering all sorts of names today. I knew that's what I wanted to be the minute I saw them perform, she said in a 2013 blog post for the Florida Bookshelf. She eagerly awaited 1953 and she would turn 17 and become eligible to apply for a job. By then she had spent hours at the local pool honing her skills, from a graceful dolphin kick to smiling underwater with her eyes open. She was asked to come back to the park mermaid training the following week. I was in heaven, she wrote. Back then, mermaids performed in silence, amazing audiences with elegant underwater ballet moves. Between puffs from an air hose, girls typically swam in multiple 40-minute shows a day, eating bananas and gulping down bottles of Grey Pet soda underwater. Is Grey Pet a type of soda?
Which one again?
It says Grey Pet, Grapette, soda. Not one I'm familiar with. Wonder if it's a local brand.
I don't know. I remember we used to have the grape soda, but I don't remember the name.
Oh, let's see.
But
grape
time period that,
yeah, knee high.
that I have been down there.
Yeah,
Knee high, yeah.
there's a grape knee high, and then I think Coca-Cola had theirs. Yeah, but I'm not familiar with that. Then they dried out to take tickets and announce other programs. When American Broadcasting Company took over the park in 1959, she embraced the changes. Mermaids were fitted for shiny lame tails and performed the circus music and classical songs in a new underwater theater. ABC hired photographers to shoot aquatic publicity photos. She hammed it up, holding her breath as she stuck various poses. She was not afraid to make silly faces. That's why you see so many of them, said Lou Vickers, her friend and author in several books about Wikiwichi. She performed over a decade, swimming her way up the ranks to become mermaid supervisor. Along the way, she got a taste for stardom. While she was off, the day Elvis famously visited the park, she got to appear in NBC's Wild Wild World documentary and game shows, including What's My Line and To Tell the Truth. The television program Route 66 came to film an episode in the early 60s. She showed the actors how to perform with the air hose. She was the one you could always count on for guidance. She was a beautiful swimmer and always helpful. First underwater movie premiere took place in 1964. The stars of The Incredible Mr. Limpet, including Don Knotts, came to the Mermaid Theater to celebrate. She had to swim up to the window and blow them a kiss, Huckabee said. When the spring waters year-round chill started to take a toll on her body, she switched to a position on land. As producer and choreographer, helped ABC crank out new productions every year. She converted classic stories like Peter Pan, The Wizard of Oz, Snow White into mermaid masterpieces. She also dreamed up original shows like Mermaids on the Moon. She would design all the props and costumes as well. Remembered retiring a mermaid, Becky Young. Even the first time I met her, she was always outgoing and vibrant and so creative. Susan Hopkins, a tomboy who joined the team in the late 60s, loved the comedic routines. She was less confident when it came to ballet. She was talking to her about one day. She said, "Susan, you're a good swimmer. All you have to do in the water is think I'm the best swimmer in the world." And you know, she was right. As Disney World transformed Florida tourism, visitors drifted from Wikiwichi. To save money, and the park stopped switching mermaid programs each year. Instead, it launched a new bird of prey show. She traded choreography for falconry. It's a great fit for her nature lover. In her spare time, she loved to explore remote Florida area, paddle down the Peace River. The best friends and fellow mermaid Jeannie Young. As a bird manager, she worked with a variety of imperiled Florida species. She became friends and foster mom to injured egrets, pelicans, birds of prey, seagulls, blue herons, and the osprey, wanting an easy meal, learned to recognize her soft chug, chug, chug of her car loaded with frozen fish. She'd wait quietly as they approached the pelican sanctuary at the end of the bumpy road in the attraction. She's especially proud of the 2 bald eagles she rehabbed and released. I know she loved being a mermaid, but she really treasured working on those birds. When she talked about it, she was in awe. By then, Wikiwichi had become more than just a job. She even passed down her swimming genes to her daughter, Tesla. I said Tesla. Is that Ursula, who became a mermaid? The pair swam together on multiple occasions. Her long career at the park ended in 1989 when Florida Leisure Acquisitions took over, nixing the bird show in her position. The company began destroying old props and burning promo photos. Did they really burn the photos? I mean, you hear that. Is that just fancy for saying, hey, they threw them away?
I don't know.
According to Vickers reporting, she and the other fired employees were threatened with the loss of their severance if they spoke out. Left quietly, but not before rescuing as many old photographs as she could. Meanwhile, St. Petersburg Time editorial page lambasted the new owner over the decision, calling a vital part of the Wikiwichi Springs attraction. I'm going to think when I was there, it was probably 85 or 86, so right before then. Her greatest joy was seeing her recovered birds go back to its home in the wild. Because of management's hasty decision to fire her, her voice was silenced in that loss of local wildlife and those who care about it. She had a big soft spot for history, played a significant role in preserving the past. In 1970, she helped the University of Florida during an archaeological dig of the Native American burial ground at Wikiwichi. She also an important source of Vickers' first book at the park. She had amazing scrapbooks. She worked there longer than anyone else. She was so generous in her help with me, giving me access to all of her stuff, letting me stay at her house. He brought her on as a co-author for her next book, Wikiwichi Mermaids, 30 Years of Underwater Photography. Thanks to her contributions, the project featured numerous rare postcards and photos. It won a gold medal in 2012 Florida's Book Awards Visual Arts category. I got to write all the captions because I know she was funny. She continued to hang out with her mermaid sisters for decades, meeting up for picnics and reunions, annual long weekends in Cedar Key. She was among the first class of women inducted in the park's Hall of Fame in 2012. In recent years, her longtime partner died from coronavirus. He had been her caregiver as her health waned, and she moved down to Statesboro, Georgia to live with her daughter in the fall of 2021. She died on July 19th. Her legacy at Wikiwichi, especially among mermaids who loved her, lives on. It was like you could soar through the water. That's the way I remember her, Bonnie. Someone who just glided through the water and just made it look so easy when it really wasn't.
You certainly did what you loved.
Yeah. Great getting out there. Look at that bird. Well, he's a beast.
She must have been active during the years I was down there.
Yeah. She'd have been involved in some way. Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking in the 60s, and that's when she was active.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, that's aging me, isn't it?
No, I mean, you could have been too.
Yeah.
Well, how about this one? 2 Michigan lakes in the top 10 most polluted lakes in the United States. According to Discover Amazing Animals, not only did 2 of our Great Lakes make the list of 10 most polluted in the United States, but they're also polluted enough to make the top 5 as well. Sitting at number 4 is Lake Michigan. And River. Federal government. Well, yeah, thank God we got a federal government. Okay, is this just, am I being a pessimist here? And this is my opinion, not anybody else's, but is this labeling to get some money? Is that what they're doing here? You know, how?
Well, I can't read it, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, there's just no details. It's just a list saying this. See, what's the source for this? According to Discover Amazing Animals. So why is Discover Amazing Animals the authority on polluted lakes? And then when they referenced Lake Michigan, they said water such as the Detroit River. Last I checked, Detroit River doesn't come out Lake Michigan. Yeah. So, but making the list at number 3 is Lake Erie. So you're going to compare Lake Michigan, say that's 4 and Lake Erie is 3. This is yeah, I'm calling bunk on some of this. I'm not saying that there isn't plenty of room for improvement and that we shouldn't be protecting this. But, yeah, something doesn't smell quite right here. Thankfully, working away Lake Erie's better environmental regulations have resulted in significant improvements in water quality, the reintroduction of economically important fish species like walleye and other biological life. All in all, Great Lakes provide so much life that we need to keep them clean and safe. Yeah, let me see. What's the next one? Is that the 2? Is that the 2 on the naughty list? Yeah.
Just a quick note. Did you send out the show notes?
I thought I did. Maybe I didn't reply, hit the send button. Let me send them off to you.
I can't read the notes. That's why I was curious. I was going to look at my own copy.
Yeah. So that's the 2 lakes. Now oh crap. Okay. Everybody's going to love this. Here's me going through. Yeah, a lot of services improving them and actually making them a little worse. And I hit post on that. Why am I not seeing? I didn't. Maybe I missed something. Oh, crap. I know what I did. I got, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, no, I actually didn't send them out. So nobody's got them. Oh, that link's not going in there. That's a wrong link. Okay. Yeah.
I was just trying to find my message I sent to you. I can't even find that.
Well, I did get that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And go up to here. Okay. Now I've sent it off. Have I just been sharing my whole oh, goodness. I think I was. Everybody got to see my lovely email. Yeah. That's fun. That's great.
Okay, now I got what you had.
Okay, here's where we're looking. Yeah, not a lot of detail. I mean, it's see, was there any others in there? That was the 2 that they got it. Oh. But I thought that was interesting that we had 2. And I was thinking when I first saw the article, I was expecting it would be a couple of inland lakes, something near a bombing range perhaps, or a chemical plant.
Well, it doesn't give you absolutely, it gives you absolutely no details to validate the title.
No, and it's a list that somebody made, and the list has, what's the motivation for the list? So then let's see, here's this next one. After the big ad for Adobe Acrobat. Colin Farrell had panic attacks underwater while filming new movie, Terrifying. Now, is that Colin Farrell? There? Is that who that is?
Yes.
Why don't I know him? Well, because I don't care. I am the least. You can put a celebrity in front of me. I know who Harrison Ford is. Gosh, maybe 6 others. I just really don't care. Colin Farrell didn't have a great time filming 13 Lives. Terrifying in a word, terrifying, the Irish actor told Entertainment Tonight. Irish actor. Whenever I think of Irish actor, I always think of all those Lifetime movies where they always have the guy who all the women are fawning over. Is that who it is? The Ron Howard directed movie recounts the real life 2018 rescue of a dozen young boys and their soccer coaches. Yeah, I'm meaning to watch it. I just haven't quite devoted the time to it. Because you knew it was going to be a movie. And I like Ron Howard. He usually does pretty decent movies. But he's about 50%. About half of them I like, half of them are like, eh. Farrell, 46, confessed to feeling particularly frightened during filming extreme underwater scenes. It was scary. I'm not a great swimmer anyway. Not that they were swimming, not that we were treading water. We had to stay on the surface, but they built a really impressive network of caves, the Batman star shared. It was about 4 or 5 different caves that are based on a topography of the caves. In Thailand, they filmed them full of water, and we go down, and there was no up. Farrell, who plays rescue diver John Volanthen, added that not being able to see in the water's surface is horrifying, just wreaks havoc on the mind. Even shared that his experienced panic attacks underwater, which he called a new experience. However, the True Detective alum explained that the underwater scenes did not improve his aquatic abilities, adding being a rescue diver is a particular skill set. Farrell not only struggled the intense scenes, his co-star Viggo Mortensen, who plays real-life hero Richard Stanton, shared that he too panicked at one point in the filming. All of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. The Green Book star told People Thursday it seemed like a long time, but it was only a matter of seconds I panicked. If that's easy to do. You can't really, panicking is a bad thing, but it's understandable. You can't breathe. Although he managed to remember
it doesn't say what his background for diving is.
I don't know if they required it. Although he managed to remember his training and switched the mouthpiece to the oxygen tank. He acknowledged it's not complicated. Yeah, those oxygen tanks. It's amazing. I mean, that they green and labeled and O2 cleaned. It's not that complicated, but at the moment, it's hard to think clearly. The movie, which also starred Joel Edgerton, Bateman, and Paul Gleason, is in theaters now and will launch on Amazon Prime August 5th, which I think we've passed August 5th. They put it in the theaters so they could get if it was going to win an Academy Award, it could do so. Karen's in the chat room as well. Hello, Karen. A massive, expansive, towering hydrothermal vents discovered deep in the Pacific. In the last week, scientists sent underwater robots at depth of the Pacific, about 1.5 miles down or 2.5 kilometers beneath the surface, discovering something unexpected, a football field size of expanse, towering hydrothermal vents that crop up in an area these underwater chimneys haven't typically been seen. Vents shaped like candelabras stand roughly 35 to 40 feet or 10 to 12 meters tall, or about as tall as a 3-story building. Research team leaders from Lehigh University said in a statement, these striking structures gust black, mineral-filled water that reaches temperatures up to 694 degrees Fahrenheit or 368 degrees Celsius, although the water starts out at even higher temperature, close to 818 Fahrenheit or 437 Celsius, the team determined. Such high temperatures hint that the volcanic eruption may occur in the site in the next few years. The newfound vent is located about 200 miles off the coast of western Mexico, so it's not that far out there. In the East Pacific Rise, a range of underwater volcanoes extend nearly from the Gulf of California to Antarctica. We are astounded that not only is this field very active, but larger in the area and hotter in origin temperatures than any other hydrothermal vent field known in this position of Pacific Rise that's been studied in the past 30 years. Marine geologist of Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, Massachusetts, and the co-author of the paper said in a statement. That the ROV right there they're showing?
Yeah.
As the mid-ocean ridge, the East Pacific Rise marks a region where tectonic plates and Earth's crust are spreading apart and molten rock is rushing in to fill the gap. The magma's movement triggers volcanic eruptions and creates cracks in the crust, allowing water to trickle into the fractures, get superheated by the hot rock below, then shoots back up the seafloor, forming hydrothermal vents. Most hydrothermal vents discovered in the East Pacific Rise have been found along the axis of the ridge, plate boundary of the spreading occurs, where magmatic activity is formed 54 to 109 meters wide. So they go on quite a while with this. We won't read the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is going to be, there's a video, but it's never going to show us the video. It's just going to be an ad. Yeah.
Maybe a quickie.
Yep.
I was going to go back to Colin for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
The actors in the film underwent intense scuba training. And once Farrell heard his co-star planned on doing his own stunts, he went that route too.
Oh, okay.
And he says, one, he doesn't swim worth a damn. That's his quote. Actually, he had a couple of other adjectives in there I won't use about his abilities in the water.
So this was one of those, he got egged on. Somebody like, well, I'm doing it. Well, it's like, well, I can't, you know, my career, I'm Tom Cruise. I can do my own stunts. Yeah. You know, as a scuba, now, Mac,
for not having to use a double.
Now, if it was you, say they had you, you know, they had cast you in one of the roles, would you have done your own stunts?
Pretty much. Well, I mean, what stunt would they do that I haven't already done? And would do?
Yeah. Well, that's what you wonder. Is there, were they asking to do something, or is this just? I mean, if you took, like, that's what I'd like to do. It'd have been talk to an actual diver who's on the set, who's an experienced diver, and have an honest conversation and say, you know, how scary was it? You know, if you're not a seasoned diver, you know, if all you've done is 30 feet in the tropics, yeah, that could be pretty scary. Now, if you're a river diver in the dark, in the cold, in the ice, then I wonder what you'd have thought. And I'm not a cave diver, so.
I don't quite believe he took the same route as they did during the rescue.
No, this is all in soundstage. They said they built something that looked like a cave. Because I'm sure they did. I do. Scuba divers fall backwards in the water, and the joke is if they fell forward, they'd fall into the boat. The back roll entry helps diving gear stay in place. According to Underwater Connects, the back roll entry helps divers keep their gauges and regulators in place. If they were to dive in face first, the impact of water might knock the gear out of place, even loosen the hose. By diving backwards, assuming you do it correctly, you're ensuring you don't, you know. I don't remember in training.
You're going to go face first into the water? How about feet first?
Well, yeah, you do the giant stride.
You're going to go, face. Yeah, that would be lousy.
Yeah, but the giant stride is what they trained in class.
Yeah.
We didn't get trained on the back out, but I love the back entry, honestly. I mean, that's my preferred. I mean, the tank goes in the water first. It breaks the fall. You pop up pretty quickly. Yeah, and it does. You don't have as much turbulence around the mast, but you could go in forward. You're
I'd
gonna,
rather have the step off.
yeah, yeah, like on a Zodiac, you can't beat the back entry, and I like the back entry even on a small boat. If I'm on the dive platform, it's a giant stride, or
Yes.
sometimes I'll do a giant stride and then like twist as I go, so I kind of go back in. And that's from a retailer notes. It's also eases a diver's entry in the water. The back roll is also easier in the body, especially because scuba divers are laden with a lot of extra weight, especially with the oxygen tanks. Yes, oxygen tanks, once again. Gosh. By diving back first, you're letting the tanks lead the way to avoid any possible injury. Oh, Karen says she's got some photos in Discord we'll have to take a look at. The impact of the feet first dive is hard on your joints, can cause an injury. What?
I don't give me that, people.
A1 Scuba and Travel in Littleton, Colorado explained similarly a head first dive caught head first. What are they talking about? Who does a head first? Similarly, a head first dive caused injury from the impact or from loose gear. That's like you had 3 people throw you in the water is about the only way I can imagine doing a head first dive.
The impact of a feet first dive is hard on your joints.
No.
I've never had an issue.
Well, how about all the...
That.
So, what is the proper rescue diver procedure from a helicopter? Feet first? You look at the Coast Guard doing their rescue training. It's always feet first.
And if you do a 10-10, that's a good one. 10 miles an hour forward, 10 feet off. Yoo-hoo!
There you go.
Fun time.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's easier. And it was popularized by Jacques Cousteau. I mean, not that he invented it, but that's what you see. They were in Zodiacs, which are low the water. I mean, like here they're showing, here's a video, shot by SSI. Let's see.
It's hard to stand up in the Zodiac and do a step out.
Yeah.
You're already on the tube. You're going to roll backwards.
Right, so here they're demonstrating it. We got a little video from SSI showing it. Oh, they're signaling. You know, sometimes I watch some of these training and it's like, are we doing it? You know, it's like, we doing it wrong? So she's signaling to everybody, and we're not watching the video, so this is it, but... Okay. I don't think she did it bad, but a lot of extra moves. Usually it's, hey, I'm getting in the water. And everybody else knows because they probably helped you get your gear on. Another practical reason with the back roll entry, it keeps smaller boats from rolling side to side as the diver stands on the gunwale. What? The top edge of the hull? Who does that? While these boats may have a low center of gravity, the few divers staying in the gunwale will shake things up on board. By entering the water backwards fall, you minimize this rocking motion for everyone else on... Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. It's like they're making it much harder. It's like, hey, here are all the ways you shouldn't do it. There are other entry techniques too. Scuba divers don't always dive in the backward with a back entry roll. Obviously, divers take the giant stride method on larger boats and yachts outfitted for scuba diving with a stable dive platform. Keep your hands on your regulator and mask as you prepare for the giant stride. Check the water for any obstacles before stepping out in the water. Make sure your step is large enough to avoid hitting the side of the boat with your tank. Because the boat operator gets mad when you ding his fiberglass gel coat. Then there's the seated entry method.
If you're off the side of a boat and you take a step, how is your tank ever going to hit the boat?
On a giant stride?
Yeah.
Well, not taking it.
Unless you went backwards.
Well, the name giant stride kind of indicates how you should do it. If you just kind of did a little shuffle. Now, that would be a bad day. If you just get your foot over the edge of the boat and you hit the tank on it. Ooh.
Yeah, your
Yeah, your
boat owner is not going to like that too much.
boat owners are going to like it, and then that, depending on your BCD, that strap between your legs might remind you why that's not the way to enter the water. Yeah, and the other one is a seated entry, where you put your legs over the side, holding on the side of the boat, turn so you're facing the boat as you flip. I've done that one. That one sometimes that I'll do from a dock. Or sometimes if you got something like have a dock, like I was gonna say barge, like the floating platforms that you play on what do they call those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the way you would do it if you're already sitting there. Because sometimes, like you might sit on the edge, you get your tank on, put your fins on, you're already in the water. There's no if you're sitting down, there's no point to step up, yeah, get up. Then get in the water. You can just do it from the seating position. So that's usually what I consider that one to be. Yeah, seated entry. That's what they called it. Yeah. So, okay. Moderately interesting. I thought it would give us some great banter to talk about. Of course, here's the thing to talk about. Look at the people in this photo. You think any of them actually ever got in the water, or are they just there for the new gear photos, the photo op?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for like a tag, like a price tag that hasn't come off, or some sort of.
Well, I've noticed nobody has mask.
Right. Yeah, she's holding the regulator like she's ready to go in, but none of them have masks on. Well, and then look at this girl on the right there. I don't even think she has the BCD attached completely. It's like she's holding where it should snap into in her hands. But that's so you can tell she's wearing a bikini. That was probably the important factor there.
Of course.
So all the guys who are getting into diving. So the world's deepest cave just got a bit deeper. The flooded freshwater sinkhole, the Hydrous Abyss, in the, oh my goodness, Parov district, the Amlak region, has now measured a little bit deeper, according to new data. A recent expedition to the cave in the Czech Republic found that it measures at least 1,476 feet deep, according to press release. Scientists had previously only guessed at the sinkhole's depth. The new measurements exceeds a previous estimate in 2016 of 1,325 feet. I thought they were going to say global warming had filled it up. Feet under the water level, scientists were able to gauge the actual measurement by using a robot that was lowered into the sinkhole. We call that a drop cam. Thank you. I guess it could be a little ROV. If you got a little jogs that they got to do. The Hydrous Abyss is actually thought to be deeper than this. However, scientists still have not managed to reach the bottom of the sinkhole due to technology limitations. I mean, that is a pretty hefty depth. How deep is Lake Superior? It's got to be
over 1,000.
It's got to be close to that.
Over 1,000.
Yeah. During the expedition, scientists also gained more data on the shape of the hole from this. They were able to draw a 3D map to its depth. CT24 reported. Is that the entrance? That is tiny to be that deep. Do they show It was done using a smaller robot installed with 6 cameras and a sonar beam. Most important thing for us to manage is to create a map backed by data. They could do some SLAM type mapping. I wonder why it hasn't been. Because that'd be a nice project. Some university should do that. Be a great student project to see how far you could map. At 450 meters, it begins to turn to the southwest, which is probably the reason they had to do the ROV. The hole, however, is very difficult to explore. Divers have previously gone inside. However, they struggled with extremely poor visibility, according to a blog post from 2021. They also found that because the water is slightly acidic, it would sting their bodies that were not protected by a dive suit. Divers also reported the air just above the water to be unbreathable due to high carbon dioxide content in the air. That'd suck. Many logs, bit of foliage, and trees have also fallen the hole over the years, which means they occasionally block areas of the cave, making it difficult to explore. The shape of the hole also makes it difficult to guarantee a diver's safety. If a diver were to lose control buoyancy, they may sink deeper in the hole. That's why you would drop your weights. We focused on exploring the Makata restriction at a depth of 200 meters. Everything worked perfectly, so we decided to go beyond the restriction. There are spaces to explore and mapped are huge. At the depth of 450 meters, we were stopped by technical limitations of the underwater robot. Previous studies of the hole found it was created by groundwater seeping down rather than seeping upward, a process called hypogenic formation. Rather, researchers believe it was formed by water running underground, eroding the base. Huh. Boy, that does not, for that depth, that is not that big of a hole. Yeah, that's interesting. I find that fascinating, how deep that is.
I don't know, carbon dioxide, air pockets, acidic water. I don't think that's some place I'd want to be playing around in.
Yeah, and then it's a sinkhole that's just been gobbling up trash for years. And here we have divers find a shipwreck off Cornwall coast after it sank 105 years ago. Veteran aquatic explorer from Dark Star located torpedoed 1,000-ton USS Jacob Jones at 400 feet of water, the southwestern tip of England, after just 2 days of trawling old coordinates. The shattered vessel had been lying marooned at the depth since it was struck in 1917 by German submarine missile. Is that a term? Would that be a torpedo?
Yeah.
Submarine missile. So sometimes I think some of these articles are written in a different language and then translated over. It's like, hey, let's not do any reporting. Let's just borrow some stories. Killing 66 of its 110 strong crew. Armed with 8 21-inch torpedo tubes and 4 4-inch guns, the steam turbine-powered Jacob Jones rescued hundreds of stricken sailors from torpedo attacks on patrols in the British water in May 1917 till it met the same fate 7 months later in December 6th. It was hit 3 feet below the waterline, 60 miles off the coast of England, which historians say the 315-foot war workhorse sank in only 8 minutes. The 44 sailors who survived used onboard emergency rafts, with the strike so horrific the German U-boat commander who hit them took 2 maimed British sailboards onto a submarine, radioed the Allied coordinates so the rest could be rescued. They said it because it was...
I would think that would be unusual.
That they would radio, hey, here's where we sank out?
Yeah, because that's his position.
Right. Strike so horrific. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what time in the war, because there's certain parts where you think you got an advantage and you're trying to have some sort of rules.
It was December 1917. Cold water, freeze to death out there.
That could be. It was probably a courtesy. And maybe it's because it was another submarine. And they figured that the sub couldn't get the message out. Because in those days, they were diesel electric. So you were probably motoring on the surface when you were spotted in the silhouette and then targeted.
Those underwater pictures are fantastic.
Yeah. They said due to the speed of the hulking warship plunged to depth, it was feared it was too shattered to find. Its location remained a mystery until now. Divers who made the discovery on Friday, 40 miles off the coast of the Isles of Sicily, said no human remains were found, adding it had been top of ship hunters' wish list for decades. Such an exciting find. Jacob Jones, the first ship of its kind to be lost to enemy action. So that might be also why they radioed. first ship of its kind. And here's some photos I have. Wow.
Yeah. That's a hell of a wreck, isn't it?
That is.
That ship's bill is fantastic.
Well, and also look at the dive gear he's got. Now, he's got rebreathers and a lot of bailout. What you need, if you're going like 400 feet, that's what they said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they have the ship's bell on, which is always nice to find. Steam turbine engine. Fisherman's nets. Web. Yeah. So when you say you discovered it, no, there's a fisherman years ago swearing at the damn thing when he was trolling along, and all of a sudden he things start getting ripped. No human remains are found or personal artifacts, but for me, the thing that brought it home was the bent prop shaft, which shows the trauma the vessel might have been through when it was torpedoed. Absolutely incredible. The ship lost for over 100 years had been a lot of people's wish list because of its historic weight. Diver from Plymouth, Devon added the carnage after the ship was torpedoed. The destroyer's commander ordered that all life rafts and boat launched, but as the ship was sinking, the armed depth charge began to explode, which is what killed most. I thought this was a submarine.
No.
Oh, it was sunk by a submarine.
See the boat, you're right. It's a four stacker.
Oh, okay.
The guns are forward and aft.
Yeah.
The four stacks are right in the middle. And it doesn't look like a lot of freeboard on that sucker either.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Never mind me. I've got fair brain going on. Yeah. One name in particular was Stanton K. Kalk, who spent his time swimming between the rafts in the freezing Atlantic water, but he ended up dying from cold and exhaustion. He was awarded the Navy's Distinguished Service Medal for his heroic actions that day. Wow. German submarine commander Captain Hans Rose showed an incredible act of kindness. He actually saw that Jacobs Jones' men in the water took two badly injured crewmen aboard his own submarine. He then radioed his enemies at the U.S. based in Queenstown with the coordinates to come and rescue the survivors. Dark Star trawled GPS locations provided by the UK Hydrographic Office to make the find, which located a second day of searching. They had... Yeah, you got to look for it. I mean, isn't that kind of the moral of the story? Because the submarine commander radioed where it was. So unless there's a lot of drifting, it went down quick, 8 minutes. So you should be able to plot how far it would have been.
When we think.
Yeah. Jacobs Jones was one of 6 vessels named Tucker-class destroyers designed by and built for the U.S. Navy before the nation entered war. Hailed as one of World War I's main workhorses, it rescued hundreds of survivors from torpedoed ships. By the end of war in November of 1918, it is believed Germany was responsible for sinking more than 5,000 merchant ships and about 100 warships. Boy, the moths are... Can you see them in the camera? I'm like surrounded by giant moths. They must be liking the light. And then we have the Riddle of the RAF Bomber found in the seabed thousands of miles from home. Investigators took years to piece together identity and fate of the plane, which ranks as one of the best preserved of its type. The poignant story of the RAF crew, whose bomber plummeted in the sea off the Italian island nearly 80 years ago, has been revealed for the first time. A team of dogged historians and divers took 6 years to piece together what happened to the aircraft, which has now been identified as the Martin Baltimore Light Attack Bomber. They relied on a mixture of British, Commonwealth, and Italian military records as a recollection of locals, one of whom is still alive, who saw the aircraft fall from the sky. It was flying a reconnaissance mission from its base in Malta on June 15th, 1942, when it was forced to ditch into sea either by being hit by enemy fire or because of suffering from engine trouble. The aircraft came down about 500 meters up. Oh, I'm not even showing the... You have to let me know when I don't show the good stuff. It floated a few minutes before dripping beneath the waves, giving local fishermen time to row out, attempt to save the crew of 4 members. They have been identified as Sergeant Francis William Baum, pilot in the RAF, Flight Sergeant Alec Greaves, an observer from the Royal Australian Air Force, Sergeant William Edward Fincham, a wireless operator and air gunner from the Royal Canadian Air Force, Sergeant Robert Tetrell, Purslow, an air gunner with the RAF. Sergeant Greaves died on impact when the bomber hit the sea and was buried in a war cemetery in Tanzania?
Tanzania.
Okay. And the other 3 were rescued. Sergeant Purslow died at a prisoner of war camp in Wolfsburg, Austria in December 1943. The aircraft is found in the seabed in 2016, but it took 6 years for locals to piece together the war record and eyewitness accounts of locals before they could identify it. And the wreck is at a depth of 85 meters. So diveable, but not recreational.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for them. Nice find and some research on it.
You must have made a nice pancake landing because didn't even bring it in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you got time and you know you're going down, you're probably going to see what you could do. Yeah,
and especially if you didn't have wave action.
Yep. Karen say I learned to do a forward roll over one shoulder off a pool edge for the handicapped scuba testing. Forward roll over one shoulder.
You just go left and go in.
Yeah. You may have done that. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the training. That might be another one. I mean, that would be a good one too. But she learned it for the handicaps. That might be so that you can help the other diver do the giant stride. So you're always looking at them. And then 6 valuable wrecks still waiting to be found. So Mac, it's not without hope. We can still find the big old ones. Number 1 in the list is the Flor de Lamar from 1511, the centerpiece of the Portuguese military power in 1502. The Flor de Lamar was effectively a looting ship, like all good ships should be. For a decade, the vessel made trips from Portugal to Hormuz in today's Iran, Malacca in Malaysia, Goa in India, bringing arms and muscle to colonize people and returning to Portugal with gold and silver and other valuables. In 1511, when it was returning back from Malacca, overloaded with 400 men and thousands of pounds of gold, believed by some to be worth more than $2 billion today, it sank during a storm near Sumatra. If the 500-year-old rumors are true, it could be the most valuable shipwreck on Earth. Only a slight wrinkle. High-value cargo has caused Portugal, Malaysia, and Indonesia to all claim rights over future bounty, leaving its much smaller slice for enterprising explorer who finds it. Mine!
That's why you don't tell anybody.
Yeah. You bring your own smelter down there? Is that what you just do? Drop everything in the smelter?
You take your submarine, do a lockout, go get the stuff, put it back in the sub, and boogie on out.
Okay, Richard Branson. Number 2 on the list, the SS Waratah, 1911. The Waratah was a British passenger ship often called Australia's Titanic, but it was launched in 1908, 4 years prior to the actual Titanic. The Titanic shadowed it, just outdid it, couldn't let it go. Capacity for 750 passengers and 150 crew, made one round-trip voyage from London to Sydney, but on its second voyage, the ship was reportedly overweighted and prone to small fires, breaking out from an uninsulated boiler. Ah. It doesn't sound like a great design feature. It disappeared somewhere near Cape Town, South African historic shipwreck graveyard known as Rough Waters, Bad Weather, and Rocky Outcrops. outcrops, made more famous by its parallels to Titanic. Both ships are considered technically advanced, geared towards the wealthy and wholly unsinkable. Efforts to find the Waratah picked up in 1980s. Group of researchers have made at least 6 expeditions around the presumed wreck site with no luck. I spent 22 years of my life searching for the ship. Emily Brown, chief wreck hunter, told The Guardian when he finally gave up in 2004, I've exhausted all the options. I now have no idea where to look.
Did it say how deep the waters are where he was looking?
No. Near Cape Town. It just depends where, were they going in the shore? Did they know they were sinking? Now, did it kind of lose power and drift out? Probably depends where the continental shelf is there. Cape Town. Seems like that could go pretty quick, deep. Number 3 is the SS Arctic, 1854. Launched in 1850, the Arctic was luxurious and quick, able to cross the Atlantic in 10 days. The private ship was built with generous subsidy of the U.S. government to help the American-based Collins Line compete with the British Cunard Line, those Brits. 4 years into the transatlantic service, the Arctic collided with one night in 1854, the French steamer near Newfoundland. Incidentally, not far from where the Titanic disappeared along the same route, heading in the opposite direction. At the time of its sinking, the Arctic was a tragedy that killed almost 300 people. It was made worse by the horrifying revelation the crew had scrambled into the too few lifeboats and all the women and children on board had died. Wow. Yeah, because that wasn't even when the Titanic sank. That wasn't even the rule, was it? Women and children first. I think it seemed like we covered something on that. That was like, there was no rule saying that. It was just something people had decided to say. And I wonder if this was one of the wrecks that kind of launched that tradition. The Arctic tragedy.
Generally,
yeah.
I was going to say, generally, in the older days, there was not that many kids and or females on board the ships. And therefore, if there are not very many, you would normally let them go first because there's only a couple of them.
Yeah. Well, it probably depends. Like if you're coming from Europe to Ellis Island or something, I mean, you're going to have mixed families. And because how else are you making it to North America? Merchant Royal, 1641. The most lucrative wreck recovered to date was the Nostra de Atocha, Spanish galleon carrying so much gold it took 2 months to load the riches evenly before the ship set sail in 1622, when it was found by bombastic wreck hunter Mel Fisher. Was he bombastic?
Some people say so.
Yeah. Off the Florida Keys, the gold was valued between 400 and 450 million. Probably anybody who tries to claim it and isn't willing to just back down probably is considered bombastic. The Atocha hoard, however, would be dwarfed by that of the Merchant Royal, an English ship believed to be carrying 100,000 pounds of gold, worth more than 1 billion today. It sank somewhere in the Isle of Sicily, near Cornwall, England, in 2007. Members of a professional salvage company working with the codename Black Swan Project thought they had found the ship. Their haul, disappointing 500 million, considering they're expecting more than twice that. Raised a question about the wreck's true identity. The vessel is later deemed to be likely the Nostra Mercedes, a galleon that sank in 1804, meaning the Merchant Royal and all its gold may still be sitting somewhere near Land's End, England, waiting to be found. Land's Project.
If you consider Mel Fisher found 450 million in 85, how much is that worth today? Well over $1 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, today's prices.
Yeah.
Because in the 70s, gold was up there, but not like it is today. The Santa Maria in 1492, the famous trio of ships, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, carried Christopher Columbus in his ocean crossing Hispaniola, modern-day Haiti, in 1492, but only the first 2 ships made it back to Spain. According to the reports of the voyage, tension grew between Columbus, Juan de la Cosa, a cartographer in Santa Maria's onboard master. Things came to a head when Santa Maria ran aground on Christmas Day in 1492. Columbus blamed De La Cosa and considered asking the Queen to charge him with treason and abandonment of the ship. She didn't. The ship was lost and has never been found. Based on cultural value alone, explorers may have repeated expeditions to find the Santa Maria. One archaeologist thought he had located the wreck in 2014, but UNESCO nixed the findings, saying it was a different ship based on copper fastings, which weren't used until the centuries after Columbus. Doug Wilbanks from Numa, Clive Cussler's group, I think they thought they knew where that was, but they said that because of how people in Haiti were living along the beach there, that they didn't think you'd ever be able to prove it. That there was just the activity and everything else. There just wasn't enough left of the wreck that would have survived with all the other things going on there. So he it's one of the Numa books. He wrote either 2 or 3 of them. So you can find out more about that one. Amelia Earhart's Airplane, 1937. There's been a lot of shows on this. One of the 20th century's most enduring mysteries isn't a shipwreck, but the wreck of an airplane lost at sea. Aviator Amelia Earhart made repeatedly in her long-haul flights across the Atlantic. First person to ever fly between Hawaii and the U.S. mainland. But in 1937, the final leg of the attempt to circumnavigate the world, her plane, navigator Fred Noonan, and herself in the cockpit went down in the Pacific. Earhart and Noonan were declared lost at sea and presumed dead, but the plane wreckage was never found. That gave its explorers of long to find a wreckage, but may lead to Earhart's existing remains and thus solve the century-old mystery of what happened. National Geographic partnered with Bob Ballard to search for conclusive evidence based on the radio and logbook data. Ballard and the team narrowed the search area off the waters. But DNA testing of evidence in the area was inconclusive, and the mystery endures. Yeah, that was interesting. Nice article from Mental Floss. Yeah,
basically tells you there's lots of money out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Karen's saying the best way for somebody to use no legs to enter, gear up, and just do a forward roll, letting one shoulder lead. Yeah, I mean, you kind of, that would break the water. Did I find this one? I think I did. This is one of the articles I had. The moment that changed me, a scuba dive gone horribly wrong, taught me the dangers of complacency. So kind of turn it up a little bit this week, Max. See if you can spot. Just 20 years ago, I took 6 months out from my NHS job as a psychologist to embark on a round-the-world trip. I fell in love with scuba diving and took a job as a cook on a dive boat on the Great Barrier Reef in Queensland, Australia. I called my boss in England to tell her I wouldn't be coming back. After 2 days based at the diving school, students would board a boat for a 3-day trip. It was me they came to. The worries: are there any sharks in the reef? Are they dangerous? Is it pitch black at night dive? I was a cook, but my psychology skills were put to good use. That morning on the boat, 2 instructors were going on an early one. They asked me if I wanted to go with them. They said the best time for a dive was 6 a.m. when the fish were waking and feeding on the coral. The sun in the water was dazzling. They were playing a short, deep dive. They were 2 of the most experienced divers, but also 2 of the most competitive. I felt slightly out of my comfort zone, so I declined. I regretted it as I watched them sink beneath the mill pond surface. After such a deep dive, they should have resurfaced at 22 minutes. At 45 minutes, remaining crew and I were anxiously scanning the water. It was a deckhand who noticed that neither of the divers had taken their digital compasses. As time ticked by, my terror grew. We organized rescue helicopters from the mainland while attempting to keep potential catastrophe secret from the scuba diving students. Yeah. Hey, you're on the dive boat. We can't find our 2 dive instructors, but no problem. Nothing to worry about here. After 9 minutes, we had to cancel their dive trip. Guys, we don't have your instructors. The skipper was forced to explain the situation. It wasn't until another hour later that passenger spotted a tiny glint of silver on the horizon. It was miles from the divers had gone in the water. Skipper went to investigate, and eventually our divers were picked up safe and well. Swept away by strong currents on their dive, and without a compass, they had been unable to reorient themselves to the position of the boat. Consequently, they had surfaced a long way off and only stopped themselves from drifting further by wedging some equipment into the coral. The glint of silver was a watch aimed at the sun to reflect a signal to passing dive boats. Once back on board, they were subdued. And while we know they would be a safety review by a dive company, it appeared to downplay the experience. I saw in their faces a terror of being in the middle of the open water, small dots bobbing in the wide expanse of the blue. Because here it is. What they probably came up not long after the 22 minutes. So what's this, about 3 hours? They could probably see the boat in the distance, and they're going, crap. It could have been a tragedy, but luckily just a salutary reminder of the power and unpredictability of the sea, and the way a flat, calm surface can mask a wild undercurrent. Later the evening, drinking beers under the stars, I thought my split-second decision not to go them, I felt it was something to do with their experience and their competitiveness. I thought about my own novice anxiety, my almost obsessive need to check and recheck my equipment before getting in the water. I began to wonder why neither instructor had taken a compass, given how often I had heard them preach about the importance of safety. The two instructors knew the dive site well. They were highly skilled, having probably clocked up more than 10,000 dives between them, yet they put themselves in a vulnerable situation by going underwater without a piece of vital dive equipment. Perhaps they had been revered on sun-drenched boat, made it hard to stay grounded. This experience had a profound impact on me. When I eventually returned to NHS in the UK, I informed the way I worked with my teams. While experienced staff members have huge skills to impart, so do novices. I went out of my way to encourage the voices of new arrivals to see the situation where the fresh eyes can be vital in what might feel like a tired and complacent system. Once when I was facilitating a lessons learned session in an obstetric ward, turned out the student midwife had averted a life-threatening disaster. Several others presently admitted they had been concerned about a mother having difficulties in labor, but because the medical director and other senior consultants were not, they kept quiet. However, the student had learned about this particular rare condition for an exam the week before and had no idea who the consultants were. Blurted out her concern, correctly diagnosing the problem. The fact that it was her first day in the placement was significant, as a few weeks later she might have recognized the senior clinicians and kept quiet. Like diving instructors in a boat, surgeons and some other professionals can be revered, afforded godlike status, but sometimes they should be idolized for brilliance in their skill and expertise, but experts are human. They can mess things and make mistakes. We cannot leave it to the novices to speak up and wave the red flag. They need to encourage a culture of openness and learning in organizations. I often think of those two divers, their youth, vitality, and confidence, and the rush of joy I felt when I knew they were safe. I think of how the brush with death on a boat in the middle of the coral sea made me aware of the complexity of decision-making. All we need to remember that reverence can become a silkscreen that obscures our vision in life and death situations. It is ironic, too, that this carefree holiday job that gave me fundamental life experience, I use my work as a psychologist today.
The only comment I'd have on that is, why was a compass critical? Because it was a current that took them away from the boat, not the compass.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that was the other thing, is that because the compass would help them to orient to the boat, but are they saying that they could have gotten back? Well, that's the thing, is could you get back? Also, did they have a safety sausage? My guess is that this was a dive they had probably done 1,000 times before. Either the current was stronger on this dive, or they just were too far out and couldn't get back in time.
Well, they said the current.
Yeah, because the safety sausage, and A signaling device, like a whistle. Seems like they'd have heard a whistle, wouldn't you think?
Depending if the wind was away from you or towards them. Yeah, they lucked up, that's for sure. And he lucked up by not going with them.
Yeah, that's that little sense when you're not comfortable. You know, follow your instincts.
When in doubt, don't.
Yes. Well, that was a long... oops, I hit the button. That was a long stretch of articles. I overdid it for not having a bunch of time this week. We got them in there. Let's see. You said next week we got the Havana dives. That's on the list.
Yep, the Tankful Tuesday is the Havana. Options, of course, if it got blown off a little bit, then we still possibly the piers, depending on which way the wind is blowing and the wave action. But sounds like we got 4 boats going.
Yeah. So if you're one of the muddy regulars, this would be certainly a good dive to attach on. Now, I see in the Mud Club a lot of people either moving in the area or passing through, doing posts on dives and dive partners. Has there been much activity with that?
On the Tankful Tuesdays, I've had more people from Florida, from different parts of Michigan, and from California dive than I have club members.
Oh.
Which is sort of funny.
It is, but somebody's diving. I mean, we want to encourage the sport and grow it. It's a matter of everybody dive as much as you can, let people know.
Right, and it's the Facebook members, not the club members, that actually showed up.
Yeah.
Well, which is good. That shows that when Facebook people do get in our area, they say, "Hey, can we tag along?"
There you go. Well, and there's nothing quite like if you've done the Havana. Are you thinking number of dives you've done on Havanas in the triple digits?
Triple digits? Probably not.
Oh, okay. I know I've probably got 20 on the Havana. I mean, there were some years where we're going out there 3 or 4 a year. Maybe not 20.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 15. It seems like it. Rockaway, not as much. Verano, even less. I
think I've been on the Verano once. Rockaway, maybe 3 times. Havana, over 50 years, a number of times. But
I've done the Verano 2 or 3 times. Because like Kirk, Bob, and I used to do a lot of different. It seems like we'd start. We do Michigan City. We'd start there. It was either Havana or Michigan City. One of the Muskegon. And I want to see that. I want to see that new wreck over there.
The Wheeler. It's not new, but
right,
new found again.
New to us, and a new, a recently popularized wreck.
I haven't dove it since the 70s.
Oh, Karen said I had a guy come from Wisconsin over the Straits. Facebook member in the Mud page. He's a source of the pictures over on Discord. Okay, so I guess we need to take a look at Discord. Ooh. So should we do a photo share? Let's see. How do I do that? Do an open link. Open link. Yeah, I'm gonna open these photos up. And we'll take a peek at these. So these are, I have to get back on as I get these open and find out where these are from. This must be from Karen's Dives. Open link. Open link. Wow, there's quite a few of them here. So for somebody not getting on the water, this is torturing me. I finally got my ears to clear up. I've been fighting with my ears for quite a while.
You just take a pin, you go pop, and then you're good.
Yeah. Well, I thought deafness was fine. Now, I asked my wife that. She was probably is having enough of it. Let me see if I can get this. So, Karen called these the pictures from the Straits. Okay. So that's what we'll call these. Let me cue that up here. Okay. Here. Okay. So you see that one, Mac?
Yep.
Okay. Maybe if
It's a good covering of quagga and zebras.
Yep. The diver underneath.
Yep.
I'm always amazed how your eyes will filter things because, you know, the water there in the photo looks quite green. But when you're down there, your eyes just kind of go, it's a little green. It's not that bad. Let me get my window back. Nope, that's not it. Damn it. Yeah. Welcome to the show I've never done before. Oh. Did I close? Are we still streaming?
In slow motion.
In slow motion. So I think the reason I'm not seeing it, I'm going to fade this as I go play around with some other tabs. Yeah, that's where it is. Should probably, yeah, there. So, okay. Yeah, it says my camera kept turning off because of the pressure in the dive case. St. Andrew and Perseverance over near Sheboygan. There's one of the break of the Cedarville. One of Dan Schulte coming up a line. Diver on most of those is Karen. So let's go to the next one. Is that capstan there, Mac? Does that look like it? See, like a little square hole there.
That looks like the where you pull up the anchor at.
Oh, okay.
Windlass.
Okay. Okay, let's see this next one. It's dead eye there. For those who can't see it.
On the rail.
Yep, on the rail. And you can see the thing to note there on the left is the discarded quaggas. And that's building up in the bottom. I'd like to see somebody study to say how much the bottom topography has changed because all these quaggas shedding. So all that cleaning of the water by quaggas eating it, that mineralization of their shells is now falling off. So there's a layer. I know when some probing we had done, there was a good 6-8 inches of quagga mussels or zebras that had built up.
Yeah.
There's Karen, I'm presuming, on one of the wrecks. I'm surprised the algae growth on that. That's the thing, as the water clears up visually, your sun's getting down to some spots where it wasn't before. Some hatches.
So the depth on that?
She didn't, but she's listening, so she'll pop in the chat room what the depth ended up being. That's a nice one there. And then there's, looks like a shot down the anchor line, the mooring line. Must be Cedarville, I'm guessing.
Can't tell from that.
Yeah. And then that might be Dan Schulte coming up the line. Karen said 70 to 75 feet on the wreck. Yeah. Just some of, you know, everything looks better from the water, I think. Especially when I see all those.
It looks like.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's the island there, isn't it?
Mackinac? You think that's
Looks
Mackinac?
like it.
I noticed there's a bunch of bikes. Yeah. I just see all those bikes there and I'm like, oh, that looks crowded.
Well, Karen was anchored over there on that mountain, the island,
Yeah.
for a bit.
And then, yes, the Cedarville break and Dan is what she's saying when we were commenting. The split off. That's a cargo ship. I wonder what then is in the tubes there.
Oh, very interesting. I know that when Jim and them were doing some dives, they're in the shipping lanes, so they had to make their calls every 15 minutes for the ships, let them know that they were under anchor or not underway, divers down. I said they did get good responses, and they made sure the calls were every 15 minutes. Which is what you want to do when you got one of those coming at you.
Well, it would be nice would be what could we do for the crews of those vessels when they do that? I mean, I know they're following the rules, but really, if they just say screw it and they like buzz you, I mean, it's just nice. It'd be something nice just to say thank you for something they'd appreciate, or maybe that we notice that they gave some space. Karen says, yep, that was the one that came close. Whoops. not calling anybody out. Look at that vessel in the background. A little shore power there. Making sure everything's all checked out.
I think that's when Karen had to get her neighbor to loan her an extension.
Yeah. There's a thing with boats and campers and RVs is you always realize that there's always one more thing you need. The point to when you're hauling an extra 3,000 pounds on your vessel. Ah, there you go. That one looks steep.
That's a nice picture of the ship's wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, the Calumet is getting extra donuts the next time they come to St. John's. Oh, Jones. Karen says that was her boat in the photo. So this is Karen's boat. What's the name of the boat? Isn't it the Man Overboard? I'm bad.
I believe it is.
I'm bad with names. So yeah, look. It's hard to believe how long those have been down there when you see something like that. That's even got some muscles on it.
Oh yeah.
Some bare spots, but some muscles. I mean, it's not everything's covered anymore, but so thank you for sharing those, Karen. Those are awesome. Wish I could have been there. Maybe next year. Have I said that like 9 years in a row? I've actually been up there twice. You couldn't tell. That's why I got the podcast. That becomes my dive log or lack of dive log. So thank you very much. So Mac, did you have anything you wanted to cover?
Well, you've been there quite a while. I don't know if we want to belabor it, but I do have a safety item. It's called mistakes and bad decisions, which we might have already talked about a little bit. This is a gentleman who was doing a trip to the Liberty wreck in Indonesia, on Bali, B-A-L-I. A little background, the ship that we're going to dive on is called the USS Liberty, one of the most famous wrecks in Bali. It was hit by a Japanese torpedo and beached. And in 1963, the eruption of the local volcano caused the vessel to slip off the beach and now lands or lies on a sand slope. The wreck is 390 foot long, shallowest parts in 15 foot of water, and the deepest in 90 feet, or 30 meters. So his write-up on the dive was, the first day was a recreational dive, followed by 2 days of technical diving. He said, I had a colon sinus leading up to the trip, but the conditions apparently had cleared up 4 days before my departure. Weather conditions were terrible on the first day there. Storms set in, we had to abandon our third of our planned dives. On the second morning, we headed to the Liberty, and he did a leisurely swim before the dive to stretch their muscles. The dives were uneventful. That night, they had a quiet dinner, retired early. Unfortunately, the power went out early. Didn't sleep well because it was hot and muggy. Following morning, he woke up feeling sore and sleepy. Did a quick yoga session to ease the sore hips and shoulders. And there wasn't much to see on that first dive that day, he said. Before entering the water on the second dive, he had a slight headache and saw shimmering lights. He said he thought he could fix it by eating something, so he had an energy gel before proceeding with the dive. He said he was used to pushing through pain and discomfort on long-distance swims, but he should not have had the same attitude about a dive. During the descent, felt a slight pain in his left ear, but wasn't alarmed since he usually had difficulty equalizing. He did so by swallowing, but he had some other issues, but he finally did clear. When he reached about 100 feet, he noticed the current suddenly increasing, pushed him down. Was also holding onto a rock. The current was much stronger than they both thought. Exhausted from the short time it took to get back, panting heavily, his head was reeling. They spent 10 minutes and 100 feet before heading to decompression stop. Instead of staying still, gently finned his way back to the shallows at 20 feet, was really tired and wanted just to, get his decompression as close as possible to the egress point, which he realized now was a mistake. When he did get back on the surface, he noticed he had difficulty breathing, felt like he had a tight belt across his chest, started dizzy, knew he was in trouble, told the dive guide how he was feeling, told me to sip water and rest. But when my right arm started tingling and I had trouble drinking and clenching the fist, I knew I had decompression sickness. So the dive guide let him down to lie down in the van once on shore, was on oxygen from a demand valve. Arm started feeling normal within a few minutes, but developed a severe vertigo and had to stop. Every time he turned his head, felt a rush of nausea. So they called the dive shop. They called Dan, recommended immediate treatment. He said he was grateful for Dan's advice because the dive guide dropped everything to take him to the hospital. By the time he got there, couldn't sit up. Nurses whisked him to the emergency room where they put an IV and oxygen. He vaguely remembered having an x-ray, being moved to a private room. Says, it is a testament to Dan's efficiency and reputation that the hospital didn't bother once about payment. It was on oxygen all night with occasional breaks for air. Since the hyperbaric doctor wouldn't be there until the morning. First thing they did tell me was I'd be fine, motor relief. course, he hadn't been in the table or in the chamber yet. When the doc got there, they put him on the Navy table 6, after which he was there for a couple hours. He could walk unsupported, but was still unsteady. Had 2 more treatments. And although the DCS resolved, the doctor told him not to fly for a week. So he stayed there for another week to recover. He said if Dan hadn't stepped in, he didn't know if he'd have been gone to the hospital or not. And he would have struggled to arrange for the money to get to the chamber. He said 3 months after the incident, he had no lingering symptoms, has been exercising regularly, but still has an occasional bout of vertigo. And he said more like lightheadedness rather than actual dizziness. The doc said it could take up to 6 months for the inner ear damage to heal. He said, considering everything else, he was lucky to get off that easy. So he was saying he was very grateful to the dive shop and Dan for their quick action to get him the treatment that he needed. But if you look at all the stupid things he did, he's lucky he's not dead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. Karen's in the chat room said it's a long run out to the Dolphins, but it's an amazing wreck, and the cabin is still intact. So that's that one that we saw.
Yeah, I think that's the new one. More recently identified and put out for other people to dive.
Right. Really not much new about it. Let me see. I think this is the one. This is the dolphin one right there.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Yeah, that cabin. So it's always nice to see something different. You're in a time machine, is what it feels like.
Yeah, Jim had a slideshow at the dive meeting also. What he did, he took pictures of a wreck and then said, now can you identify the parts and pieces? Then he went around and identified what each part was, what it was called. So if you hadn't seen this before, or were used to seeing what these images are, help you put a name to them.
You know, that was very helpful. We should have him come on the show just to say that. You know, the anatomy of a wreck with photos.
Yeah.
Because that's helpful. I mean, there's a lot of parts I see, I recognize what they are, I know what the function is, but I might not put all of them together, because there's knees, there's decks, there's all sorts of stuff, and you start becoming familiar. And there's parts that we just never see in our rubble wrecks that.
And if they're covered, they obscure a lot of, like the dead eye. If it's covered up, you don't see it. But then when you see this glob here with the eyeballs and the nose, that's a dead eye.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense to you.
Yeah. Yes, 11 miles west of the bridge, she's saying. Let's see. Is there anything we want to plug before we get on out of here?
Well, summer's burning up, so if you're going to get wet, you better do it now.
Yeah.
The lake turned over, so it's getting colder to get past 20 feet. Starting to get your thermoclines back.
Yeah. Well, and I have to apologize to everybody with me getting stuff edited, but I think I'm, like we're talking about buying time, I feel like that's where I'm at. I'm getting close. So I've got a bunch of work to do on some hosting plans and configurations. So good things are coming. If you do like the show and want to contribute, you go to our Patreon, you go to our website, www.scubaobsessed.com. We're on Twitter at Scuba Obsessed. The show at scubaobsessed.com. We'll get an email our way. I can't tell you when I'm going to read it because it's probably been months since I've gone through that email account. Terrible, bad person. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/Scuba Obsessed. I'm on there about once a week. Yeah, I'm doing good at staying off most social media. And they try. Facebook gets a little paranoid. It's like, you haven't talked to me in a while. They will send me text messages saying, hey, your dad put something on Facebook. Why aren't you there? Karen says, thinking about taking my boat out Saturday if the weather cooperates. Oh, taking the boat out. Yeah. Yep. Saturday I'm doing robotic stuff, but that's great that you'll be able to. St. Andrew has a huge centerboard trunk, she's saying. So very nice.
So you might want to talk to Jim because I think he was thinking about getting out there early just to check it out.
Yeah, let me see. Might be some. See if I can. Okay. I think that's it. Do you have anything else, Mac? Or
Nope, that's it.
okay, well, we'll see what we've got as far as jokes for this week. I'm some of them I'm kind of filtering through, trying not to do the repeat some. I think some of these I've done. Yeah, and so here's one. My brother came back from school all motivated because he said he would be following a new diet from that day. We didn't really give it much thought until my brother really started eating his homework for dinner. When we stopped him and asked what he was doing, he said, "I'm just trying to see how it tasted, because my teacher said the homework would be a piece of cake for me." Let's see. In my neighborhood, there's a couple who had given their twin sons very weird names. One was Trouble, the other boy was named Mind Your Own Business. So one day we were playing hide and seek, and Mind Your Own Business counted to 100 and started looking for his brother, but somehow he couldn't find him anymore. He saw a police car pass the neighbors, so he stopped to ask for help. When the police officer asked him for his name, he said, "Mind your own business." Feeling insulted, the officer still asked politely who he was looking for. Mind Your Own Business replied, "I'm looking for Trouble." Yeah.
You found it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Some things I'm not saying because I don't get them. They might be funny, but I just don't understand them. For a high school dance, the head boy asked out the girl he liked to get flowers for. He had to stand in line for the florist for an hour. To make things worse, he had to wait for another hour in a line outside the tuxedo shop. Finally, he goes to the dance with the girl. The girl waited to have some apple punch, so the boy went to get it. But to his surprise, there was no punchline. Yeah. So I think we'll end on that one. At least that got a boo. So until next time, go out there and get wet.
And be safe out there, people.
No, I'm still here. I'm just waiting for it. There we go. Ta-da. Now we're off the